Good Monday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in downtown Charlottesville. Our audience, though, is every social media platform known to mankind, and today's show is presented by Yes Realty Partners. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. We have a charter member of Yes Realty Partners on set, and Gavin Sherwood. We also have one of the co-founders, and Keith Smith. Today's show is going to be dynamite. Nikki Chambless will join us later in the program to offer some fantastic insight as well. Huge fans of Nikki Chambless on this show. Judah Wickhauer is the director. And why don't we go to the studio camera and welcome the fellas to the program. Gavin Sherwood's either fourth or fifth rodeo on set, and I'll say it once and I'll say it again. If you have to buy or sell a house in Nelson County, or if you have to buy or sell a house in Wintergreen, here's the guy. Gavin Sherwood's the guy to call.
Thank you, Jerry.
Lives there, knows the market inside and out. Every nook and cranny of Nelson County. Gavin Sherwood, my friend, good morning.
Good morning to you.
It's great to see you.
You as well. Thank you for having me back.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
How was the weekend?
It was a great weekend. Keith asked me to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I do at Wintergreen. I work with an organization called Wintergreen Adaptive Sports, and we volunteer basically providing ski instruction to people who have disabilities. And so we serve a variety of people in that manner. A lot of great people in the Charlottesville area and basically just throughout Virginia who come to the mountain and volunteer with us.
That's fantastic.
It was a very busy weekend.
And you were on the hill the whole weekend, right?
I was, Saturday and Sunday.
So talk about the conditions. Was it packed? And
Sunday's always a little bit slower than Saturdays, especially getting into the afternoon, but Saturday was extremely busy. And the temperatures certainly helped with that because I will say when we have cold temperatures, Wintergreen is outstanding in their snowmaking capabilities.
So while we're on Wintergreen, just for those who do not know, let's talk a little about Wintergreen. It's like the four-season resort, right? It has 4 different seasons. So talk about Wintergreen. Talk about the product types and so forth and so on. Give us a 5-minute spiel on Wintergreen.
So Wintergreen opened back in the mid-'70s, and I think the main attraction is obviously ski season during especially this time of year. They have a great membership program as well for people who want to indulge in that with a variety of activities too. They recently, I'm not sure if they're open at the moment, but they recently just revamped some of the older tennis courts into pickleball courts. And I know that has gained quite a bit of traction over the last, 5 years, I would say.
Sport's blowing up, man.
Yeah,
Fastest growing sport in America right now. How's the health of the Wintergreen market?
I think it's actually very good right now. Prices have gone back up in that regard. We are probably in the same boat as most every other market where inventory is still pretty low.
Are we seeing a lot of folks utilizing the Wintergreen inventory as an investment, second home?
They are.
Airbnb. Put in perspective what you would say is maybe a ratio. And are the Airbnb investors starting to get pinched at all a little bit?
They are.
Put that in perspective.
So obviously 2020, 2021, and even 2022 were quite good for the short-term rental market. I've spoken with quite a few owners I've sold properties to, and they've said things have kind of normalized or returned to the pre-COVID rental market. So that is a factor to consider. And
so if you go into Real Talk with Keith Smith, we have a market update, and I think we've uploaded the Nelson County numbers. But one of the things that are a little bit different than in Wintergreen and Nelson County is you've got condos, right?
We do.
Right, which is not normal in our footprint, right?
Correct.
On that end of it. So talk a little bit about condos, talk about how that works, and I've got some numbers I'd like to chat about.
Oh, sure.
Condos over there.
So in the spirit of full disclosure, when you buy a property at Wintergreen, everyone there is an HOA called the WPOA, which everyone is required to pay. Currently, it's just under $2,000 per year. If you have a home, that is the only dues that you pay.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So it breaks down to $155, $160 a month.
I mean, that's basically what we're paying, pretty darn close to what we're paying in Glenmore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad.
Lake Monticello is just around 190 something, I believe, a month.
Yeah.
So that's pretty close. So what do you get for that?
They do offer, and I will speak to this personally. They have it is a paid fire, police, and rescue service, which is a big it's a tremendous benefit being in Nelson County because those are paid staff and they do have to respond. I will tell you, there was, honestly, my father had a heart attack about 10 years ago, and they dispatched the Wintergreen ambulance to come care for my father. And that was
And you're
awesome.
in Shipman, right?
And I'm in Shipman, yeah.
There's a place called Shipman, right?
There is a place called Shipman.
Just checking.
When I moved here from Texas, I had no idea where that was either.
Shipman's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It
So they
is.
saved his life.
They saved his life. They did. And they ended up, the Pegasus, I think, the life flight for UVA, ended up coming and picking him up. So that was wonderful to know that we do have that kind of staff that will show up in time of emergency.
And Nikki just joined us.
Incredible. Yes, good
So,
morning.
good morning,
Happy
Nikki.
Monday.
Nikki Chambless in the house.
Let
What's
me
up, Nikki?
see your shirt. What you got on there?
Love. Nothing but love.
Oh, look at that.
Culture,
Love it.
Growth, family, education, passion. I can only read so many words upside down.
It's a great shirt.
So,
The month for hearts.
Exactly.
Valentine's Day.
There you go. Look at you.
I did try to be in
Theme.
in theme here.
And I like the
I like
new
it.
glasses, right?
Thank
Those
you,
are new.
yes.
I've
Thank
Nikki
you.
getting some props on the show today.
Yeah.
Look at
Well,
that.
they were a bigger size, and since I've gone to Progressive, which the first time I put them on, I greatly regretted, but now that I've adapted,
It takes a while.
I'm really excited about them. Yeah.
So the
Not
two or
real
three
estate
people who
related
don't
at
know
all.
you, tell us a
Oh,
little
hi,
about who
I'm
you
Nikki
are.
Chambless. I'm team leader at Keller Williams Alliance here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I don't know. I have purple glasses.
And I saw something about a band thing you were doing this weekend.
Oh yes, so we
Not
had
that I Facebooked you or anything like that.
no,
Maybe
so we had
I do.
a photo shoot yesterday. It was so much fun. It was
So
great.
it's Cake Fight is the name of the thing,
Cake
and you
Fight
had
is the
like
name of the
cake all
band.
over your face or
I
something.
might have had 3 cupcakes smooshed all over my face. I'm pretty sure I still have some green icing stuck in there. Oh, it might all be out finally.
There you go.
We'll see. I don't know. I just said not the ears because that would still be in there if so.
So back to Wintergreen.
Yes.
Good morning, Nikki.
Good morning. Good to see you.
There you go. Apologize. Good morning, everybody. So, look, I was looking at, volume, right? So if you wouldn't mind going to slide 5, Judah, I'd appreciate that. So one of the neat things, and refresh my memory, Jerry, who helped me correct my error on this? One of the listeners and
A handful of them with the acronyms.
correct. Well,
Yeah.
the acronyms and me separating out Wintergreen.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I think it was Todd.
Todd Rath.
I think it was Todd Rath.
The
yeah.
owner of Blue Toad Hard Cider
Uh-huh.
said when we were looking at Nelson County data that it's really 2 different markets.
It is.
Nelson County.
Yes.
And I lumped
that
it
we
all
should
in.
Wintergreen
separate
versus
them.
Nelson.
Yeah,
Correct.
and he said we should
Yeah.
separate them.
And I
That's
did. So
absolutely
thank
true.
you to Todd that we actually get a little smarter after each show. But to focus on the single family attached and condos, and most of those are condos, if you can take a look at the volume, it's not a huge amount, but there was 140 transactions that were sold in 2022. That's about a 16% drop over 21. Actually, 2020 was the banner year, which was right in the middle of COVID, right? The beginning of COVID, in the middle of COVID. And I just wanted to ask you, did you feel like COVID and Wintergreen, did COVID help or hurt Wintergreen? Because looking at the numbers, they're pretty stellar.
Oh, I think it absolutely helped Wintergreen.
And why is that?
So I started selling up there in 2016, and I'll give you just a perspective as well. At that time, at Wintergreen, between all of the different products, homes, townhomes, and condos, there were roughly, give or take, 150 properties actively for sale at any given time. Now we have, I think it's 46 in the entire county,
In all of Nelson.
in all of Nelson.
How many Wintergreen properties are there?
Up at the top of the mountain, there are about, I think there's give or take 2,000, little 1,800, 2,000-ish between all of the different types. And I would say probably 900 to 1,000 homes, 900 to 1,000 condos or condos and townhomes, excuse me.
Wow. I love when he comes on the show, Keith.
Well, so I needed to spend some time with
Please
you.
don't
to-
hold me to those numbers because
You said roundabout. You said roundabout. Yeah.
Covered it.
So
I did not sit
when
down
I
with the
s-
map and count every parcel.
Yeah.
when I search Wintergreen, I need to search 2 different locations,
You
right?
do.
Paragraph?
And it's also good to know as well, Wintergreen technically is a Roseland address. If anyone has ever heard of the town of Roseland, which is in southern Nelson County, and that has to relate to the Postal Service. So when searching for property at Wintergreen, if you decide to do such, Wintergreen, Wintergreen Resort, Wintergreen Mountain Village, and Roseland are all will probably produce results.
So I'm on the consumer side of the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
I pumped in Roseland, VA into the search bar. Is that the best encompassing search of Wintergreen?
I think Wintergreen Resort
You
is
think Wintergreen
actually-
Resort is
the
better than
best.
Roseland?
So that's
Yeah,
what I'm
but-
in.
But
Okay. Fairground.
sometimes a client will reach out to me and say, hey, have you seen this property? I'll go to my saved search at Wintergreen and it doesn't pop up.
Understood.
Just
Okay.
because I haven't put Roseland into that criteria.
Got it.
But then I just have the knowledge to go ahead and do that to locate it.
So Wintergreen, I have Wintergreen Resort and Wintergreen Mountain, right? That's the two
Correct.
areas I need to pick. So detached, there's only 8 homes available for sale.
Yes,
in
I saw that
all
this
of
morning. Mhm.
That. And so you were saying at one point that number was substantially higher than that?
From the time I started in 2016 until about 2019, 2020 when COVID came about, it was about 70 to 80 homes was
So
pretty common.
why do you think COVID boosted Wintergreen?
Outside stuff to do. Get out of the house. Quality of life.
Well, people wanted to escape the city.
Plus
Yeah.
internet.
Plus, we'll
Just
have
so
that conversation another day. Come on, Firefly.
Well, and more people were able to work remote, right?
fire.
Yeah.
And so not everybody required quite the internet that everyone
Correct.
really wants
Yeah.
and needs.
I believe Firefly is present at Wintergreen now.
And like all of
which
it?
is the fiber optic.
Nice.
So that's great.
And they're,
Yeah.
it's such an
But
upgrade.
I mean, honestly, people wanted to escape the city and get to the mountains, and the rental market obviously took off as a result of that, especially for the property owners. And so, the amount of rental revenue that was generated during COVID, honestly, it was much higher 2020, 2021, than it is today.
So if you wouldn't mind to go to slide 3, Judah. So this is a Nelson County Wintergreen only, single-family detached. So we're taking out the condos on that end of it. So there's a 43% drop from 2021 to 2022 in volume. That's best as I can tell in all the jurisdictions I've been looking at. That's pretty healthy. Healthy drop. Some of them have been in the 20s and the 30s. Any explanation why you think that's going on?
Say that again. I'm sorry. In regards
So-
to,
so-
I was trying to find the right slide.
No
you're talking
worries.
about.
So in 2022, single-family detached just excludes new construction. There were 67 homes
Gotcha.
sold. In 2021, there was 118, so that's a 43% drop year over year. 2020, by the way, was the banner year at 123
Well,
on that.
it gets into, I think it gets into the prices going up and the interest rates going up at that time as well, because people were having to deal with, obviously, a vacation home or a second home purchase. And so you were not paying 4 or 5% on a second home, you were paying 6, 7, 8.
And your down payments were required to have changed quite a bit, right?
Correct.
You used to be able to do a lot less than 20%. So Nikki, I'm going to kind of throw this at you and see if you can, and see what from your perspective, is the work at home phenomenon changing, right? Are people starting to go back to the office, and could that be some of what's going on in Nelson County?
I don't think that's some of what's going on in Nelson County. I do think there is definitely a conversation around that. There are a lot of workplaces that are sticking with what they said they would do, which is amazing and incredible, and allowing people to work remote more often. And sometimes that means only coming in once a week or once a month when there's something bigger happening. Like I had someone who bought a home in Richmond. I helped her buy her home there. And I made sure, I was like, hey, are you sure that your boss is not going to change their mind as things open back up? And that has worked out incredibly well. And when she does a shift to another role within that same organization in Charlottesville, what's really great is that role, which will potentially be an upgrade and all sorts of goodness for her, is also going to allow remote. So I think it really depends. Some of our areas really are sticking with that. And I don't know that that's having a huge impact. I would lean toward not as much impact as one might possibly think.
What do you think, Jerry?
I think people are certainly having to go back to the office at a greater clip than we anticipated.
Yeah.
I think perhaps some of the, well, I mean, here's the expert. I mean, what are your thoughts of why this phenomenon is happening here?
I mean, honestly, just being in Nelson and having, and well, still continuing to fight the internet battle. I mean,
You think
to
it's
me,
internet
I
frustration?
think the companies, obviously the companies have a lot to say about that as well. But up until even a few years ago, the ability to do that just wasn't present. And so I'll give a shout out back to Jesse, and I know he's been.
He's on here on
involved.
Friday.
Yeah.
Al Gore, Jesse. Al Gore created internet. Jesse created broadband in Fluvanna County. Well, to pivot it a little bit, Gavin, what I found interesting, if you go to slide number 4, Judah, though the volume dropped by 43%, the prices went up by 43%, right? So the single-family detached in Wintergreen only, $615,000. Keep in mind, 2017, that number was $325.
Yeah.
Is that jiving with what you're seeing on the ground?
It is. It is. My mind goes to one house up at Wintergreen specifically. It sold, give or take, around 150, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
150,000?
Mm-hmm.
Single family detached?
Single family detached.
Wow.
And I think it sold within the last year for over 400.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
So that does play into it. To that point as well, I am seeing the list prices still remain high.
Yeah.
But I am starting to see more properties having price adjustments as well. And that's just, as you well know, the balancing of the market is occurring, and it's benefiting one side a little bit better than the other side.
Is this the most challenging time to buy a vacation home or investment property or second home at Wintergreen? Maybe in the history of Wintergreen?
In the history, I would say probably not.
How about in the last 20 years?
I have no knowledge prior to 2016.
They've gotten more expensive.
I can tell you, because I've been around here for 3.5
Yeah.
decades. Wintergreen was stale for a while.
Oh, it
right?
was, absolutely.
Right. It was hard to sell anything because of certain reason. But there was a lot of organizational changes that I think helped quite a bit
They have.
on the sales volume. But I'm looking right now, just so that you know, single family detached in Wintergreen, there's only one home in pending. So that's
mine.
That's yours. There you go.
You're listing.
No, actually.
You're representing the buyer?
It was representing the buyer.
Fantastic.
There you
He's
go.
getting props from agents.
Oh, wow.
Gracie Armstrong-Haynes says you're a fantastic agent with whom to work with.
Thank you, Gracie.
Gracie's
Gracie,
great.
thank you for watching the program. You're a talented agent yourself. She's giving you some props right there.
Thank
Keith
you very
Smith.
much.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the numbers live as we're talking about that, and it looks like you're still in the high double-digit days on markets and the
Correct.
triple digits. The one that you put on the contract was on the market for 118 days. Are you seeing in Wintergreen those larger days on market impacting buyers and sellers, or they come to expect that?
I think it is impacting things. Well, we had the conversation recently as well. It's who's going to realize what's happening first. And I think we're at the point where the buyers saw what's happening 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And now sellers are getting on board to some degree. And it's just it's a slow turn, to see that happen.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nikki?
Well, going back to the investing question, I think a lot of that, whether or not it's a more challenging time to invest, there are different times that are more challenging than others. And I think the key thing is to realize that investing is a long game. I get there are some short-term investings in real estate, but generally speaking, if you're investing in real estate, you're playing a long game. And when you play the long game, over the years, the numbers work out.
Yeah.
And I think that was a conversation I was just having in office this morning. And one of those conversations we try to have often, but it was about how, sometimes there's a perception of it being, and I was like, what? That's a perception? You should show me these things because I probably need to know the other thoughts on this. But they were sharing, some people are viewing it as short term and that it's a bad investment. And I was like, oh, they're doing it wrong. Truly, right? And that's really investing in general, but specifically we're talking about real estate. So there's always opportunity, always.
Condos active.
Yes.
As it sits right now.
8 or 9.
8.
Eight,
Good
yeah.
job. See, you are an expert. How many are impending?
Well, let me go back. I didn't finish the conversation.
Oh.
So people should know when it comes to condos, you also have, so there is the WPOA dues that you have to pay at Wintergreen, which is a little less than $2,000 right now. But you also do have to pay, if you buy a condo or a townhome, you also have to pay dues to the condo association that is managing that community.
So we
And-
got 2 different sets
correct.
of association dues.
Does that get costly for the condo owners?
It does. It
Yeah.
does. I'd have
What's
to look
like the monthly nut, roundabout?
I'd have to look at the numbers. The cheapest between both dues is probably about $6,000 a year.
That's costly.
at
What are
this
the
point.
perks to that? What does that offer?
The most expensive at this point is probably about 11 or 12
Wow.
Wow.
thousand.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
That includes both the WPOA dues and the condo dues.
Okay.
Wow.
But
That's
people
still-
people do need to know that.
Yeah.
And we've found a workaround if any agents are listening. In MLS, if you always wonder why there's I think it's 1969 is the
I'm looking
WPOA
right at it.
dues.
Yep.
And then there's also a road maintenance for a condo. So we started putting the condo dues in the road
Ah,
maintenance
because the field didn't
just so,
exist.
even though it's not the correct label, it at least discloses the cost,
The total.
the total. So
I did not. I just learned something. I did not
Yeah.
know that. So
Ivy Haynes giving you props. So we have both Haynes talented
Thank you,
realtors
Ivy.
watching you and giving you props.
and sorry about that thing way back when.
Apparently they've forgiven you. I'm just saying.
She's giving you some props, yeah. She
Okay.
says you're great.
well, how
Yeah.
about that? Huh?
She says you're great.
So I'm pulling up one of them
This is
right
good knowledge right here.
right now. So you have the association fee at $1,650, and then the road maintenance is $1,669. 1969.
I
Excuse
bet it's
me.
a quarter. I bet it's. I bet
That's
that's-
quarterly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Look at that. Huh? You're quarterly. So the 1650 is quarterly.
Yeah.
The 1969 is yearly.
The 1969 for the WPOA is yearly, and they bill that on an annual basis. I think they send out the bills like around Thanksgiving, and you have to pay it by, I believe, the end of February.
So back to what the market is doing at Wintergreen for the condo side of thing. You're spot on. There's 8 active, but there's 9 pending, which is pretty good ratio.
It is.
An excellent ratio.
Yeah.
The median units that are pending right now, just the size, it's 1 bedrooms, 2 baths. Wow, 754 square feet. Been on the market for 41 days, and the median list price is 175. Is that tracking about what you're seeing
Yeah,
out there?
that's about right. Mhm.
So a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bath condo, roughly 800 square feet,
Yeah.
is going to cost you $175,
Yes.
plus all the fees on top.
Plus
of that.
all the fees on top of that. So
How are the Ivy Haynes says she's laughing out loud, never forgiven ever, and then gives you the chicken head. I don't know what the chicken head emoji means over there.
chickens were not allowed in the HOA.
Oh, gotcha. How are the short-term rental investors managing the monthly HOA payments? Can they capably do it and run a short-term rental business?
Yes and no. I'm
'Cause that's a second mortgage.
I don't like to have a client just walk up and say, "Hey, I want to buy a condo and make some money."
Okay.
If they say that, I immediately divert to the conversation we just had because I don't want to waste their time.
You're saying dues.
Yeah, dues.
Yeah.
So what does that conversation look like?
This is a good show right here.
Okay, you're the buyer.
Yeah, there you
go. Okay, you want to buy a condo? Okay, great.
I'm broke, by the way, but go ahead.
Get out.
I'm done with this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm finished. Yeah, exactly. Honestly, it's just a simple conversation of, okay, are you aware of the costs associated with property ownership here? And that includes the WPOA dues and the condo dues if you buy a condo. Not to disparage the condos, I don't like that fee. I lean a little bit towards the homes as a result, just because you don't have to pay that condo dues. Personally speaking, I'll take the real estate hat off, but that's that's something people need to consider. But then again, you have certain people who say I'm willing to pay that because I don't want the maintenance
Yeah, they don't
of
want
the
maintenance.
house.
Yeah.
And so that's the give and take.
So,
And
if I want to live condo life,
Yeah.
what are the things that for that fee that I don't have to worry about and deal with?
So they will typically pay parking lot maintenance,
Nice.
sidewalk maintenance, exterior lighting, the walkways going into the buildings,
Nice.
parking lot lighting. That also includes general maintenance. So they'll fix the small stuff.
What about my roof?
Yes and no, and
Hold it. Maybe yes,
Maybe yes,
no.
maybe no yes, but he's going to tell us why. You have an exact answer for this, right?
sure, we'll go with that. Yes and no. I always tell people that when you buy a condo, you need to be aware of a special assessment. And does everyone here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But for people who don't, because there are a lot of people watching.
So special assessments, they occur on a pretty regular basis. And what I mean by that is the condo boards are made up of property owners, just people in the community who decide to be on the board to manage how things are done. They hire typically one of several companies in the general area to manage the condo. The condo association, I should say. And so they'll send somebody by on a pretty regular basis checking on the condition of the properties, the roof, the windows, the doors, the parking lot, the landscaping, things like that. Every 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you are going to be given a special assessment, which is going to be an additional cost to replace the roof, to replace the siding, to replace the windows, the doors,
But this is common
all of those
for
things.
condo associations.
Correct. Yes. And I've heard sometimes they're as cheap as maybe $1,000. Sometimes
Or-
they're as expensive as $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
So somebody needs to be cautious about that
Correct.
because the special assessment also applies on the association side of the house
Correct.
too,
And
right?
I always err on the side of caution and kind of try to break the bad news very quickly. A lot of the time, and they're not doing anything wrong. It's the way business is done. If you don't pay the special assessment within a certain amount of time, they have the ability to place a lien on your property. I always just like to disclose that and say, you need to know this before you purchase this type of property.
That's why you need a trusted advisor. That's why you need somebody who's an expert in the field, and that's why this iPhone I hold in my hand really won't do the job that we do so well. Every real estate agent that's watching does so well on that end of it is because you have to have these tough conversations up front of these honest conversations so the buyer understands that.
Yeah.
That being said, since the beginning of the year, 7 condos have closed in Wintergreen. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, roughly 1,000 square feet, 26 days on market, sale price of $234.
So the condo purchaser, your advice to them is you got to go there, enjoy the condo, make use of it personally, and then if you get additional revenue from a short-term rental, then that's just gravy.
Correct.
That's your counsel, what you're saying here, right?
Well, I mean, certain people, they don't want to use the property. They want to buy it simply as an
For
investment.
STR, for short-term
STR.
rental?
Correct.
And the margin is there, just strictly without enjoying it for personal use, for a short-term rental model?
I think with where the prices are right now, I think it's going to be hard to.
Because it's
actually-
expensive, you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, properties that are in the 300s now sold in the in the high 100s, several years ago, and so that's just something to consider. I always try to err on the side of caution and say,
Yeah.
please run your own numbers. I'm happy to give you as much information as possible, but the best I can say is you may break even.
So I'm looking at Airbnb right now as
I
you're
mean, I'm not going to
chatting.
guarantee somebody's going to make.
No, I know, right. And that's
money
why you're
off
good
these,
at your
yeah.
job. People.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's honest. Yeah.
In the month of
Definitely.
February, condos, I'm just buzzing through this, condos are ranging anywhere between about $178 a night, $150, $42 a night. There's whole houses for $513 a night.
So keep in mind, this is ski season, so it's the busy time of year.
Right.
When we get into March, April, May, right after ski season, and I hate to say it, but somebody described it to me years ago, Wintergreen kind of turns into a ghost town.
So what you're saying
For a
is
couple months.
that might be the time to do a little work retreat where you
Correct.
don't really need all the things,
Yeah.
the skiing or a songwriter retreat or whatever. I'm just thinking of things that I would want there.
Sure.
To your point,
Or enjoy it yourself.
I just put
That's
April
true.
in.
Yes.
I just put April in. It drops it to like $75, $80 a night.
Okay.
and
yeah.
they probably don't rent.
Yes and no. I mean, that turns into a big. I look at it from this perspective. Ski season is going to bring. I am so making up a number right now. That's going to bring 5,000 people to the resort to be on 20 ski slopes. So in a very compacted area. There still may be 5,000 people on the resort, but they may be on the 30 plus miles of hiking trails. So trying to, winter is when everybody gathers in one place, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So while
And that's the slopes.
to kind of wrap up the condo conversation, so I buy a condo, all right, Mrs. Smith buys a condo up there, and do we get discounts on on lift tickets and stuff like
So
that?
you can be a property owner without being a member.
Oh,
You do not, no. So as a property owner, no, you do not get a discount. As
so
a
I'm
member, you
paying
do.
condo fees,
Correct.
I'm paying association fees, but I don't get any sort of discount for lift tickets.
But
I have to-
that's common for ski
Is that common?
resorts. Yeah, that's common for ski resorts. But they can still use the slopes.
Correct.
They could just pay full retail. Or
Yeah.
you get the discount like you've highlighted if you're willing to pay the yearly membership fee, which is worth it if you ski more than a handful of times.
Correct.
The savings is substantial. Wouldn't you suggest that to folks that are skied more than once?
Yes
And we
and
did-
no.
we did it.
I'd have to double check my number here, but I want to say, as a member, you get a 35% discount.
It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, on
It's pretty
activities.
substantial.
Plus, you
So-
get to see Gavin on the slopes. I mean, my God, that's priceless, right?
Patricia Irby's watching the program, and she's relaying some firsthand perspective.
Yeah.
She said she closed a condo in Wintergreen in December as a second home getaway. It was important to understand the WAPO dues and condo dues and what it covers. Condos may be slightly different with what they cover and are responsible for example, decks and windows. And she says pay very close attention to the condo reserves and the planned maintenance schedules.
Correct.
That's
I would agree.
Keller Williams team member Patricia Yerby. She's got a fantastic forehand on the tennis court. You should see what she's doing at the board set. It's pretty impressive. Keith Smith.
So let's talk about future markets in Wintergreen. What is your crystal ball saying about that? Are we keeping is inventory going to pick up? Is the tempo going to stay the same? Do you see that shifting a little bit? What's your crystal ball saying?
My mind kind of follows just the ebb and flow of pretty much everything in life. Up and down, up and down. And so when it's going to happen, honestly, I don't know. But I think inventory will come about.
What about the rest of Nelson County? Are you seeing?
And let's get Nikki in the mix
I'm
too
sorry
here.
about that.
And I want to do the Nelson County real quick first because
Yeah.
I'm curious, and then I'll jump in here. Thank you.
I do.
You got me hooked.
And once again, I think not to go back to the same topic, but I think it's internet based.
Yeah.
With CVEC, and well, thank goodness, I'm an Appalachian customer myself, and when I first found out that Firefly was only going to be granted to CVEC customers, let's just say I was not happy.
What's the speed of your internet?
That has since changed. Jerry, you
Is
obviously
it
have
horrendous?
no idea that I have no knowledge of any of that.
Is it fast, slow?
I pushed the button in the
You're talking about Firefly?
internet.
Well,
It's
no,
fantastic.
his-
Oh, okay.
Let's put it this way: he needs to drive into the office if he wants to really Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's gotten better. I have a satellite connection right now, and I'm waiting on Firefly to be brought
Yeah,
to my
you've got
house.
satellite. It's bad. It's really bad. Sorry.
But you're,
No.
you're eventually going to get it to your home. That's the important.
I think my wife is watching, and she's
That
probably
hurt me.
laughing at this moment, just agreeing.
Why
Yeah.
she's shaking her head in agreement with Nikki, saying yes, it's
bad. It
It's
just
really
is.
bad.
Yes.
Yes, and 'tis the rural life because sometimes that is the only
Yeah.
option until Firefly
It
happens.
is.
And Firefly is amazing.
So I will say.
You experienced that firsthand?
Firefly?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
yes.
have it?
I have it. Well, I don't, but I have people who have it, and I'm incredibly jealous. I have Xfinity, and I feel like what I'm getting for my money is not worth it.
Lisa, his wife, his beautiful wife, just sends him the
Yes.
blowing kiss emoji. And I think that emoji right there just said 1,000 words, Nikki, on the feed right there.
I think we are
Is
all
that
in
your wife?
agreement there.
That is my wife.
Yeah, the blowing kiss emoji.
She'll love this.
We hope that's
I know.
And
If not, we should just.
I am
stop
sending
this
you back the other
conversation.
part of our little message, which I cannot do on
No rules. Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
It's
Go ahead.
much worse for us to have that left up to
Okay.
our imagination.
There is little
I'm just
ears,
letting
though.
you
We have a
know.
thing too. Baby cakes. There you go.
There you go.
Baby cakes.
Yeah.
I love it. I
That's-
love
yeah,
it.
you should
That's
just
great.
Don't
Yes.
leave things to people's imagination.
So just jump
But-
jump in on your
okay,
Nelson County
well,
read.
so
Yeah.
I don't know like how many people have really looked at a map of some of our counties, right? But it's really interesting. So like the north part of Nelson County, it really overlaps with a lot of the more Charlottesville-based market. But a lot of Nelson does not. A lot of Nelson, it almost, it's like if we were talking about southern Albemarle versus Buckingham County, right? The very top of Buckingham still works for what most people consider commutable. Well, what some people consider commutable, actually, because a lot of people, once you cross that bridge, they're like, nope. And I feel like there's a lot of Nelson that's that way, too, right? Faber, which, by the way, is said Faber, not Faber, just helping people out.
Thank you,
There's
Nikki.
some weird
Thank you.
things in our
Yes.
area. To me, I'm like, I feel like that's kind of close enough. And once you start getting south, while you hit some wonderful breweries and some really cool music places like Rappy's, Rapunzel's, it's also not necessarily an area you want to commute from to get to Charlottesville or Waynesboro. Right? It's just,
I think
it's
that's
a little
fair.
further out. And that impacts greatly where people are going to go and how far in that county they're going to go for
Sure.
their residential home, that residential property
Yeah.
that they're living in, right? So whereas some of that lower area might be better for investing because you have the breweries and the wedding venues and the 151, all of that, it's just a different area.
Well, let me
And
ask you a question
yeah.
too. So, I'm a little bit familiar, and I have done some work up there, but I'm not going to say it's my area, like Greene County, for instance.
Yes.
How long does it take somebody to get to UVA from, from Ruckersville or from Barbersville, maybe even? I mean, that's still a 40-minute drive, right?
If they're getting to UVA, that's actually, I think you're probably right. And especially if they're working at UVA, then you have to figure out the whole getting from parking to your office.
So I will tell
So-
you, it takes me 35 minutes to get from my driveway to
Okay,
basically
you're in
Fontaine,
Shipman, right?
To basically Fontaine.
Okay.
45 minutes?
35.
35?
So
So
I-
you're to work, you're at 45?
To get to Ix
Yeah.
Really?
from my house, it takes me about 40.
40?
Okay.
Plecker's saying 25 in the
Nice.
mix.
Do you just pop up 56 to 29?
Mike, we'll have the speed limit conversation another time.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different conversation. Totally. We're
Michael
not going to do
Plecker
that
is
here.
the mayor of Fontana. He's watching the program as we speak.
And I will not accept responsibility, but if you want to know where the police sit on 29, just...
no,
You just pop up
stop.
29,
Stop.
and it's a
Stop.
lovely drive every morning, right?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that drive. Whether
There
I'm in my
is-
car or on a bike, I love it.
It's 30 miles of nothing but highway.
Yeah.
There's no stoplights, there's no stop signs, there's no traffic circles. I know that's a big thing nowadays, too.
Well, and there's not real traffic. It can get busy at times, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, that stretch of 29 until you get to what? I don't know, Lynchburg maybe even? I don't know,
Well,
maybe a little bit before. Where does it hit? There's an area.
Going home, like, making up numbers, if there
Yeah.
are 100 cars from, Fontaine going south on 29, past 64,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
there's...
past south of 64.
Once
not
you get
before.
past North Garden, Dr. Hose,
Yeah.
then it goes down to 50 cars. Once you get south of Coesville, then
Yeah.
there's 20 cars.
Nice.
You know,
I have
in
to
the
say
mix.
it's a little-
So
It's a better drive than I would have thought.
Yeah.
So according to the Google, Ruckersville to UVA right now is a 34-minute.
Okay.
Neil Williamson's watching. He says, I can make it from UVA to the Ruckersville Sheets in 30 minutes tops.
Okay.
Are we talking like traffic time? Like truly?
I think
that makes a big difference.
It'll be his drive time.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
drive time.
Oh, that,
yeah.
okay. Thank
That's
you.
the drive time.
Yeah.
The reason I snickered a little bit is I was looking, I had it set up for biking, and it was
Oh,
1 hour
yeah.
and 59
No.
minutes, in case somebody was wondering.
Yeah.
So it's not that far, is what you're saying.
It's
that
not
your
that
point?
far.
That's
It's
your
not
point,
that
right?
far. That's my point.
And that's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
really good to know because I think the perception is that,
That it's really,
further
really
than
far.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really, really far. And then you can start putting it into perspective that a lot of folks are commuting from Waynesboro on the other side of the mountain here. And while they're shaving a little bit less time, maybe that can be quantified as 5 to 10 minutes, the drive is much more arduous and stressful than the drive that you guys
Oh,
are
yes.
talking about, where the drive is easy peasy. So you may want to weigh, do you
Yeah.
want to save 8 to 10 minutes, go over the mountain, deal with the fog, deal with the trucks, or do what you're doing? I would take what you guys are doing, 29.
Yeah.
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 Don't you think?
And I love that drive up
It's
to the
okay.
mountain. It's beautiful, but it is much more stressful.
It's stressful.
Yes, yes.
Especially when it's foggy.
And if there's bad weather,
Yeah.
I'd rather
It's
do
like white
29
knuckle.
than 64.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And are the prices synonymous, Nikki?
Ooh, okay. I haven't looked to compare that lately, and I'm not. What do you think? Do you know on that?
Waynesboro to Nelson?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I'd have to run the comparison, but for the most part,
You think they might be?
I think it's probably pretty. Well, Waynesboro is definitely going to be cheaper than the east side of the mountain.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
I think going north into Greene County.
I think that's worth taking a look at, though.
I mean, I could be
Definitely.
totally wrong.
Yeah.
But
Well, keep an eye
Yeah.
on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
All right.
Because I've got
Nice.
those numbers
Awesome. I love
up,
it, yes.
coming up. So just to put it in perspective, Lovingston to UVA right now is, according to the Google, is 35 minutes. So it was 34
Okay.
minutes from Ruckersville to UVA from
Okay.
that, and I would venture the south end of 29 is a little prettier of a drive than the 29 north.
my mind goes to my drive from Livingston to UVA versus Ruckersville to UVA. There is not a single stoplight, except when you get to Fontaine. I think
Diego Anderson makes this point. Waynesboro does have fiber, though. So he's highlighting that as like a
And
valve
depending
prop
on where you are
for
in Nelson,
Waynesboro.
absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
I think each has
That's
its
a
own
fair point,
individual. Like I could sell either of them incredibly well
Sure.
because I truly believe that they each have their own wonderful value adds.
Oh, I love it.
And a lot of them are overlapping
Oh,
and
Augusta's
slightly
great.
different. Truly variations on a theme in many ways.
Oh, there's
Whether
so
we're
many-
talking food
Yeah.
or music or beauty.
Oh, Augusta's great. I agree with you.
Well, we're going to start diving into that in future shows, but I do want to, if you don't mind, slide number 1, Judah, I do want to take a look at Nelson County, the county only, single-family detached. This excludes new construction, which is very little in Nelson County for that, and excludes all the volume, and thank you, Todd, all the volume in Wintergreen. So 2022, there was 139 units sold. In 2021, there was 176. So it's a 21% drop. But Judah, if you can go to slide number 2, and I thank you for all you're doing, man. It's really interesting. 2022 was only 1% in dollar value over 2021. So 2022 is 401. 2021 is 396. That being said, 2020 to 2021, there was almost $100,000 jump, a 32% jump. So looking at some of the other jurisdictions that we're looking at, Nelson County happens to be the least amount of percentage growth year over year, 2021 versus 2022. What do you think about that? Can you explain that? What do you think's going on there?
I think it relates back to the inventory. And I also think it goes back to buyers realizing that they don't have to just buy something.
Right.
And they have the ability to wait. And so the smaller number of homes that are for sale, people are being more selective. And they're just not jumping into it.
So Greene County was 3% year over year, but the median sales price in 2022 was $340 versus $401. So there's a little less, but the values are higher than Greene County. What you thinking about that, Nikki?
Yeah, I was checking out the comment from Kevin Higgins
Oh,
about
sorry.
UVA expansion. I'm so sorry. I was seeing what the people were saying out there.
People?
And no, I know the people. Kevin, you are now the people. But he was talking about how, because we're talking about UVA, and when we're saying UVA, we're talking about like downtown. And he's correct. They're expanding. They're going to be on the north side of town. But for our conversation, we were really focused on the downtown area. So I don't mean to derail.
No,
It's just my
you're
brain
fine.
was-
You're fine.
Squirrel.
Fulvana County was 10% year over year, by the way.
Oh,
So that was a 10%. That was excluding Lake Monticello new construction.
Okay.
It was a 10% year over year 2021 versus 2022 gain.
okay. So I have a question then. So, in regards to that, when we're looking at Greene or
Yeah.
Albemarle or Fluvanna, did they all have that large of a jump from
No,
2020
so
to 2021?
so that great point. So looking at Fulvana right now, 20 to 2021, there was only an 8% jump. So that was a 32% jump.
Exactly.
And I think that's your COVID bump. I really think that's your your Nelson County COVID bump. And then, and I think that's what's going on. I don't want to disparage Nelson County, but I think you're going to start seeing some of that going backwards on
Sure.
that. On that end of it. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, I agree with that. And so you're talking about the 299 to the 396 between 20 and 21?
I think you're going to. I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to see values go down.
Sure,
I think you're going
I
to see
agree.
small percentage increases, but I think you're going to see the volume.
Well, so
Go
I mean,
down.
I'm talking with several people right now who are interested in homes at Wintergreen, and the first question they ask me is, "Am I going to make money on the rental?" And so they're not buying because I can't tell them, "Yeah, you're going to make $30,000. You're going to make $70,000." And so, like you said, yeah.
Try that question again. I missed it. So you have buyers that want to buy single family detached.
Well, so talking about the different types of
Housing stock.
stock, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, buyers too. So it relates to, Wintergreen's a completely different market than the rest of Nelson County. I mean, not to get into it, but I also think Afton is kind of in that mix as well.
Definitely.
So then when you're talking about people who are looking to buy at Wintergreen, it's two types of people. One or three, I guess, if you want to break it down that far. The personal users who don't ever want to rent it.
Yep.
The ones who do want to use it and rent it to maybe cover some costs, and then the people who just want to make money. And the people who are just trying to make money are being pushed out now because they're not seeing the profit.
So we learned on Friday with Jesse Rutherford that the schools are continue to decline in population.
Correct.
Enrollment.
Enrollment, thank you. Any thoughts on that, guys?
No.
Got it. So how about them Mets, huh?
Yeah.
That could
But-
be a
Yeah.
byproduct of COVID, though. It could
Well-
be a
It could be.
byproduct of the younger families that moved to Nelson during COVID for quality of life and outdoors, now realizing that potentially they cannot do Nelson full time.
So I have a lot of good. Let me come back and say maybe I do have a thought. I think a lot, at least in Nelson County, and I can't speak about Albemarle and Charlottesville and all that, because a lot of my family friends, the friends that I have who have families, is what I mean, homeschool, and
Yes.
so that is becoming. I don't want to use the term fad, but that's becoming more
popular.
It's becoming more popular. And I see the benefit too. I mean, when somebody told me about homeschooling and said, wow, you really only have to teach your kid for about 3 or 4 hours a day instead of sticking them in a school for 8 or 9.
That's a pro and a con.
My first question
Well,
was,
there are more
really?
pros to that.
It's a pro and a
yeah. Yeah. No,
Kids
but
are
I would be curious to see if,
Well,
what the data
firsthand.
is on homeschooling, how many people were
Yeah.
homeschooling in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022.
Is that big in Albemarle?
So I think there is a
More
community. I know
private
when I first
Yeah.
moved to the area, I know there was a pretty large homeschool community, but it's been a long time since I've looked into that. And every now and then I run across, somebody who is part of that community, and it seems to be thriving.
Yeah.
I do think some of the groups, from my understanding, have a little like a faith-based aspect to it, which is limiting for some in the area who might be interested. And I don't know if there are other options because it really has been a long. I mean, my oldest is 21 now, and when we first moved to the area, he was in kindergarten, first grade. So yeah, it's been a hot minute.
Well, where was I going with that?
Sorry, homeschooling. No?
From a personal perspective, and certain people will call me up and say, I need to put my kids in this school district or at this school. And not to disparage Nelson, but nobody ever calls me and says, I got to get my kid in Nelson County schools compared to other locations.
Crozet, Western.
So
Yeah.
let me try the question a different way. Last year, the buyers that you helped buy in Wintergreen or Nelson County, what was the typical profile? Were they more my age, which would be old, by the way, but my age, or were they Jerry's age with kids? What did that typical buyer look like to you?
The Wintergreen shopper can be anybody. That
Got
can
it.
be anybody from 20 years old all the way up until 80 years old.
Got it. So there's hope for me yet.
Yonna?
Nicely done.
Thank you. When it comes to other parts of the county, I mean, honestly,
I've been waiting for the zings. You have no.
That was great,
everybody
Gavin.
who's watching and listening have no idea how well behaved you are right now.
Don't tempt me.
There's still time.
I
We're not
walk
done
in the
yet.
office and they just get zinged and zinged and zinged. So, but thank you for at least getting
second.
one zing in.
Let me divert for 1 second, and I will sing your praises. So my
Do you
beautiful
want me to
wife,
get dressed
we
in
call her Nicole.
spandex?
I know
Okay.
you said Lisa.
Okay.
So she had an issue with her car. I was tied up, could not get to her. It probably would have taken me a good hour and a half, 2 hours to go help her. I called Keith, and he was there within 15 minutes. And so he really is a good guy.
He really is a good guy. I can attest to that. Keith, you really are.
we
he fixed
agree. We all agree.
And
I-
he fixed,
You're a good guy.
And he fixed the problem. So
Oh, nice.
I'm a problem
All right.
solver. I fixed the
Yes.
problem. I was.
Yeah.
I may
You
have
are a
been.
good guy.
I may have been sweating and glistening in the car in the summer. He forgot to tell he was in the middle of freaking August or whatever it was.
why do you think I called you? I mean, I was right down the road. You know?
Smith will do it. He's an idiot.
Exactly.
He'll go out there.
So back to your question about
Thank you.
I like Gavin.
That was a
Thank
lot
you.
of fun. I got to spend some wonderful quality time underneath the car with your better 7/8s.
Yes.
And we
She
got it fixed.
absolutely is.
We got it fixed.
So the other people, the other shoppers in Nelson, usually, I think a lot of it is people who really want to, leave the city or leave a more populated area a little bit and actually become, a permanent resident. And there are also a lot of, I'll use the term locals, people who are just born in Nelson County and who love it and don't want to leave. And, when I've said it before when I've been on the show, I got here from a big city and I thought I was going to lose my mind. And
You came from Austin, right?
I came from Austin, Texas, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And now that was 20 years ago, and now I don't want to leave. If I had to, go back to where I came from, I would probably have a hard time, quite honestly. Because I have discovered the joy of living outside of the city myself.
Well, and it's wonderful. And you're right. Like, there are a lot of people who I would imagine want a little more space. They often, outside of Wintergreen, they're not looking for an HOA.
Yeah.
They don't want anybody to tell them what to do when they're in their home. And they don't want to see their neighbors. They want to like their neighbors, but they don't want to see them, right? And that's a whole different area. And you can't just get that anywhere.
Comments
And
are
you
coming
can
in
find
fast,
that in
guys.
Nelson County.
So Neil Williamson's watching Free Enterprise Forum. He says the Nelson County Schools enrollment has been dropping for years. Yeah. And he said, check out the Free Enterprise Forum local government spending index for that data, and he shared the link.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
Katie Pearl, another fantastically talented
Katie.
Keller Williams realtor. We have dubbed her the Queen of Whitehall. KTP, we love when you watch the show. She says, I can guarantee you the homeschooling numbers in Albemarle County have shot up as well. And she says, with everything that's been going on in Albemarle County Public Schools, I have clients and buyers that literally are telling me they need to move to Greene County to get their kids into this school system. That has been a huge shift from the request that she's fielded in the past.
Yeah.
She also echoes that Keith is a good guy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael Plecker says, hang in there, Gavin, because there's a lot of parents that want their kids out of Albemarle K through 12 schools, and they may be coming to Nelson.
Okay.
That's a common theme. I'm also hearing that from people as well. Bill McChesney says you should highlight the additional cost that comes with brakes and transmissions with vehicles for those living atop the mountain at Wintergreen, because it has a substantial impact on your car or your vehicle. Gabe Anderson is watching. He says, hi, Gavin, you're looking good. And isn't Nikki the famous cake fight vocalist? These are some happening people right now. Gabe Anderson's a talented pickleball player himself. He's watching the program as we speak. You're getting love from Tristan Ashley as well on the show, and comments are coming in very fast and furious, including from Jerry Russell, who says, hello, Gavin.
Hello, Jerry.
Wow.
Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you too, Jerry Russell.
Look at that.
Thank you for selling my parents their house 20 years ago.
Jerry Russell did?
Jerry Russell
That's
did.
awesome.
Fantastic. Small world.
Yeah.
Without Jerry, you wouldn't be sitting here.
That is correct.
Jerry, what the hell did you do?
Jerry is a different Jerry than the Jerry that's talking right now.
Yeah, got it. Wrong Jerry.
Who
Wrong
also happens to be
Jerry.
a female right there. Jerry Russell's fabulously talented. Keith Smith.
Yeah, so one of the things we do on Mondays is I try to take a look at week over weeks, right? The last 7 days going backwards, looking at the same 7 days a year ago. My Robin across the table from me here taught me how to actually take a picture and date it. So I'm looking at the same day last year, all the 6 jurisdictions. So same week a year ago, 53 units homes went active, 66 went pending. So it's picking up a little bit. The last 7 days, 69 went active, but 74 went pending. So I wasn't smart enough to do the ratios, but they look awfully close to that. So everybody kind of thought at the beginning of last year that inventory would start shooting up, pendings might drop a little bit. I mean, you have a wonderful team, so you see a lot more folks than Yonna and I do as far as agents go. What kind of vibe are you getting out there with agents? Are they concerned about the lack of inventory, or what is the water cooler discussion at one of your team meetings?
Oh, so I think generally speaking, we've all been concerned about lack of inventory. I mean, for a while now, this has been something we've been preparing for. We've been talking around, and yet it's not just a concern, and it's not like worry or like, I don't know, I guess some people are probably stressed about it. It's more of a, okay, what do we need to do? How do we approach this, right? I think we've talked about this a considerable amount on the show, that agent perspective of how do you handle a shift in the economy, and what do you do with that? And it's really about providing your value. It's not that hard to get a real estate license,
but
guys.
Did it really shift? Right? Because it's as far as inventory and pendings go, we're kind of at the same ratio as we were a year ago.
I think you got to go a little further back, though, because a year ago, I think like I said, I feel like this conversation has been going on for a while, and really, I think the shift happened slowly over more time, and I do think that this year is the year that more people are going to feel it. I just think that it's an interesting time to be in real estate, to need to buy, to need to sell, and it's still worth it. It's still good. It's still a seller's market, right?
The fact that there's 74 pending versus, hold on a second here, versus my phone went blank on whatever it was. I totally get it. Whatever was last year.
I would be interested to pull the reports to show which 74 versus the other, what those homes were, where they were, all of that, right? I mean, I know in the same area, but...
I'm just looking at big numbers here, right? So the bottom line is you would think with interest rates double than they were last year, that the pendings would not be as high as they are now, but they're creeping up, and I'm trying to figure out why is that?
But we have
why do
so
we think
much.
That's going
we have
on?
so much need for like people move in and out here all of the time. We have NGIC that is only growing, right? We have various military contract companies that, by their nature, it's very similar to, maybe not quite as mobile as the military life cycle, but oftentimes there's a lot of mobility within those industries, whether it's need for job relocation or for ability to promote and move. Oftentimes DC-ward or Maryland-ward to certain facilities over there. It really varies. We also have UVA. The nature of that is very mobile. We have the school side of UVA. We have the hospital side. All of these mean we have people on a very regular basis going in and out at a rate where we're only going to be impacted so much by that. It's not going to hit some sort of a standstill because people have to move. You have people moving from living independently to needing more support with where they're living. You have people who are moving out of home with mom and dad, and sometimes leaving the area, sometimes maybe having a roommate situation and headed to Waynesboro. There's so many reasons where our need for people to move, and that doesn't even hit our tech industry. And we've got quite the great tech industry going on in our town. So we've got so many people coming out and going in. It's only going to go so low, and we still have low inventory. Those things don't negate the other.
You think the inventory is going to pick up, Gavin?
I do.
You do? Why?
Again, I mean, just to me, it's, excuse the term, it's just simple physics. Up and down, up and down.
What's going to encourage someone who locked in a I mean, take us, 3% 30-year fixed mortgage to put their house on the market. Got a house before COVID in March of 2020 when everyone thought the world was going to end at a 3% 30-year fixed rate.
And then needing to make another purchase.
That home is now 30% appreciated in value, and rates have doubled. What would get someone like, and there's a lot of us like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just playing devil's advocate for the sake of the
No.
talk show. What John Blair made this point on a previous show. For all of us that locked in these 3%, 2.5% rate, what would incentivize us to jump back in the game?
My mind doesn't go to incentivize. My mind goes to, like Nikki said, it's
Life events?
something, life events. You don't have a choice. You have to move, and that's not me being a salesperson. That's
That's the reality.
that's the reality of it. And you just have to deal with, where the market is at the time that life event occurs.
We don't need to convince someone
Yeah.
to move or not to move. That's one of the things that I always, yes, I think we are salespeople, but I always said I'm more in the service industry than sales, because people are either going to buy or sell a home or not. I'm not here to convince them that. I'm here to guide them on that journey. That was kind of my main take on how I operated within the world of real estate, salesperson-y. And really just death, divorce, making babies, job relocation, school, family outside of the area needing support elsewhere. There are just so many reasons that people have to move. I know people, I just had a conversation yesterday, somebody who wants to downsize, and yet they're like, how do we do that in this market? And so right now they're holding tight, hoping for maybe a comment, but also holding tight for a minute to kind of figure that out and navigate that process.
Dave Brown giving you some props. Katie Pearl says,
Hey.
I found buyer activity to have really picked up this year, especially compared to Q3 and Q4 of last year. Got a handful of folks from Nest Realty, Long and Foster, and Howard Hanna watching the program as we speak. Bill McChesney, mayor of McIntyre, where are they going to move that hasn't also appreciated or increased in value as well?
So a shout out to all the real estate agents that are watching.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can quickly post in the feed, are you seeing your tempo increase or decrease year over year? So I know, Gavin, your tempo is off.
Gavin's on fire.
Tempos
Yeah.
is off the chart.
I'm busy right now.
Can we get a snapshot on 2023 sales volume so far?
So I will tell you, I'm going to dodge the question, but I'll tell you a funny story. So what?
I should laugh, right?
When was your daughter here? Christmas? Was it Christmas?
Which one?
Yes, Yasmina.
Yasmina? Christmas.
Yeah, it was
time.
Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'm in the office with Keith and his granddaughter.
I
And
mean, me on
she-
the floor, and she's teaching me how to write A, B. My 2-year-old granddaughter teaching
And
me.
so Keith decides to plant an idea in his 1-year-old,
At that point, just about 2.
2-year-old granddaughter's head, and gives her a little statement. She walks straight up to me and looks at me and says, "Gavin, sell more."
I may or may not have whispered in her ear, tell
Yes.
that guy sell more.
That's
Tell
awesome.
that guy
Yes.
sell more.
So,
Well,
I mean, a projection right now, I don't know at this point. I mean, I'd hate to throw that number out because then Keith's going to be mad at me if,
no, I won't be. Mrs. Smith might be mad at me. What the hell? I don't play by any rules. It's safe to say you're considerably higher than you were this time last year.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I asked.
By
Yeah.
pretty much double digits, right?
Correct.
And the reason
Yeah.
I'm asking that question is this time last year, interest rates were 3, mid 3s.
Yeah.
And now they're mid 6s. So for Gavin's volume and his activity to be considerably higher than this time last year proves what Gavin and Nikki are saying, that life events drive the market and not necessarily interest rates drive the market. That's what
So
you're saying.
going back to Wintergreen real quick as well, we haven't even talked about so interest rates, the market, prices, all that good stuff. Got it. The cash buyer. And you get a lot of people who want to do the investments at Wintergreen who have the cash. And so that is not even a part of this conversation.
Is the
because-
cash buyer more prevalent now with rates higher and the market still experiencing volatility? I'm talking stocks and equities. Now, January was a stellar month for us. We were plus 20% in January. but that still does not make up some of the losses from 2022. So are you seeing more cash buyers because stocks and equities have been so volatile?
I mean, from my perspective, no, I haven't seen a tremendous increase in the cash buyer. I just think they're still there, and now is the time they've decided to go ahead and make their real estate purchase. Yeah.
So to go back to Jerry's question a few minutes ago, as you guys were chatting, I tend to default to Lake Monticello as a quick market analysis on it. So I just took a look at, what has just sold, is closed in Lake Monticello in the last, hold on a second here, in the last 30 days. And I just arbitrarily was picking some homes. They range all over, just to Jerry's point, they range all over because we can take a look at when they bought and when they sold. Nobody in the last 30 days have sold anything that's been in the home for less than, the earliest was 2020. So I think what's going to happen is I think that the national average is going to increase with people staying in there for, they say 10 years. I think it's going to be higher than that. And we have the show next year, and NAR comes out with its numbers. I'm of the opinion, because what Jerry outlined, I think inventory is going to get even tighter. I really do.
I would imagine.
Because people aren't going to put homes on the market.
Let's paint this scenario.
Unless they have to.
What happens when rates Scott Morris said on the show that at the end of the year, we're going to be back in the fours. This is Ross Mortgage, Scott Morris. He's a partner of the program. End of the year, back in the high fours, Nikki. What the hell's going to happen when rates get back to that? And is it going to just bring a ton more buyers into the mix? And if a ton more buyers get back in the mix, is it going to be back to chaos and sanity? Because we know the inventory is limited.
That's a great question. You look like you were going to say something, and I was my brain was still going a different
anybody
direction.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm going to just try to make a joke of something. And I mean, it's...
I'm a fan of that.
If history has taught us anything, it's that we don't learn from our mistakes. So going back to what was present,
Well said.
So going back, to 18 months ago, when the $500,000 property sold for $650, who knows? I would not discount the
insanity
possibility for that to occur again. I mean, I would like to think that it wouldn't, and some people are going to realize they shouldn't do that.
You're talking about appraisal gap coverage. You're talking about no home inspections. You're talking about
Correct.
10 offers for one house.
I mean, honestly...
That was crazy times, right?
I'll be honest, I don't have, 30 years in the business like Keith, so I can't talk about, years and, that long of a stretch.
You've been in the business for a while, though.
7?
That's legit. Yeah.
But you're still seeing, for the right location, right price, right features, right conditions, right now, at least we are, multiple offers. There's just not 30. There's 3, but there's still multiple offers. On that end of it, you are seeing, folks trying to do no home inspections, which, folks, if you're looking at buying a home, please get a home inspection. Please get a home inspection. Even if you don't want to do a home inspection as part of your offer,
just for peace of mind,
bring one in when you're showing. Right?
Yeah.
We do this all the time.
Sure.
Bring somebody in, so at least you can get a home inspector to get and eyes on the home for an hour and give you some idea of what may or may not be wrong with the home on that end of it. But you're starting to see that. I'm not seeing appraisal gaps, but you are seeing multiple offers still, right? And you are seeing waiving, and I hope the other agents can chime in. Are they seeing that also? Are you seeing that in your shop?
I am. I'm also seeing sometimes a home sale contingency. That's not unheard of now. We've come back to kind of a nice normal, and I guess my hope would be that we would never go back to that, because I just feel like everybody, whether you rent, you're a buyer, you're a seller, I feel like everybody got really sick and tired of the market. That agents, we talked about it regularly on the show. We were over it. It was not great for anyone except potentially what the seller was making, but even the sellers didn't love that. It was stressful, and it was intense, and it was crazy.
I mean, you guys were counseling the sellers because the activity was so intense for the open houses to go stay in a hotel for a weekend.
Oh,
to
totally.
leave their house
During,
Oh, yeah.
during open
house
during
because it was so
showing.
chaotic.
During the first weekend
Yeah.
of list, absolutely, because it was going to sell then, and it was best to just not be
To
there.
stay away.
Yep, make a
Not
little mini
everyone's cool with that.
vacay.
So let's give like a 1-minute class, Gavin. What is a home sales contingency? Give me a 1-minute synopsis of that real quick.
In order to make a purchase of a new house, you need the cash out of the old house.
Yeah,
That you
and they're
currently-
quite common.
That you currently own, in order for the lender to qualify you to make the new purchase.
So talk about how that works. Because when you're going to make an offer, you need to negotiate with Jerry, not necessarily the price and the other loan terms and so forth and so on. You have to say to Jerry, okay, Jerry, Jerry's coming back to you
Sure.
saying, hey, I'll sell this house to you, but you got to let me stay in it for a while, or you've got to allow me the time till I can find something else. That's what a home sale contingency is. On that end of it, are you guys seeing that back in the world? I know I am.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely back in the world. And I view it more as a, hey, I need to sell my home to be able to afford to buy yours. Also, we're listing it on this date. It's in this neighborhood. It's in this condition. Or it's already listed potentially, and it's under contract. We promise to be under contract by this date, or we have an opportunity to reevaluate the contract. And it works. It works well, especially if you know what you have it priced well, and you have it marketed well, and you have a trusted advisor. What have your experience been?
A lot of times it's I'll talk about the buyer trying to make the new purchase, and instead of them being the seller of the old house, I'll just call them the buyer. The first thing that I think shocks those people is telling them, if you want to try to purchase the new place, the first thing you need to do is be ready to go on the old place from a listing perspective. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect in just knowing that needs to happen, because what's the first question you're going to ask me? Well, is their house listed yet?
Well, how I did the last two
If you're
And
times.
if not, what's the plan, right? You just didn't even have to ask it. That should be presented.
I had the last two times I did it with a home sale contingency, my current house already under contract.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
times
then when
people
I
don't
went
that.
to buy the next house, and interacted with the realtor, I said, my home's already under contract. And then that realtor was like, oh, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Let's make some moves, because it
Yeah.
gave the seller peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yes, it really
But
does.
some people are unwilling to put their home under contract.
Because it's risk.
Exactly
it's
right.
uncertainty.
That's exactly right. Without having someplace else to go.
Correct.
And it's funny. I currently have a 6 domino deal going on right now, and you know about it because my hair.
I think we all know about it by now.
Right, and I almost was going to show up with a bunch of dominoes today to explain what that looked like. Jerry loves when I bring props.
I do
on.
like props.
Props on the show, but I was going to go do that. But what we're talking about now is kind of the beginning of a domino deal, right?
Yeah.
So in order for me to buy, I've got to sell, and I need time to sell in order for me to buy. And these multiple buyers and sellers are all intertwined into one another. If one transaction doesn't happen, it just cascades all the way down through the buy and sell process. That being said, I know we're starting to see more of that. We're starting to see more of these pre-sale contingencies. What do I do in order for me to buy? What tools do you have in your tool belt?
Just tell me you don't have anything dependent on a transaction in New York, because I've had 2 of those happen, and that is just so special.
What are you, like, against New Yorkers or something?
New Yorkers are great. I just
Really?
don't want to deal with your
Really?
real estate transaction.
You freaking think so?
Yes, I do. Don't make me be rude, Keith.
Okay, sorry.
They're joking. Keith's a New
Yeah.
Yorker, for those that
We're
don't
really
know
gonna be
right
rude.
now.
And if you listen to my voice and don't know I'm from North Georgia, that's very surprising.
Neil Williamson shares a domino meme on the chain. Right
Yeah,
now.
so it's a show that I've been trying to concoct for a while. How do we actually talk about that in a way that, because we are in that world right now.
Yes.
So, maybe back 18 months ago, things just happened and people didn't care. They just did things just to make it
I
happen.
think that's what it was. Are we heading back for that direction? And we are 11:34 here on time. Are we heading back to that market, Nikki?
God, I hope
If
not.
we go, if he's right and they're high fours, I mean, that's a significant drop in rates. What's that going to do to buyer demand? And then throw in the recently announced Paul Manning Biotech Institute that UVA said around Fontaine Research Park is going to create thousands of new jobs in the very, very near future. And these are significantly high-paying jobs with folks from outside the area coming to this research park, spurred by a donation of $100 million from the Manning family. Are we about to go chaos again?
I don't know. I really feel like people are tired of it, and also that doesn't mean we won't. I don't know. I think that's the only true, honest answer any of us can really give. I don't know, and hey, let's take a look at some things, and let's continue this conversation over the next several months and see what direction it's moving, right? We continue to look at the data. We continue to evaluate it in a really meaningful way, because data is meaningless unless you know how to translate it, right? Anybody can make it seem to say anything.
You have to be able to communicate it.
You have to be able to communicate it and read it in a way that is helpful. So I think we just keep this conversation going.
What do you think, Gavin?
I agree with Nikki. The biggest help that I learned was, when I first started out, I was afraid to talk to a client because I didn't know what I was talking about. Now I feel like I do, and it's, that 5 minutes today is going to save you 5 months of, trying to fix your mistakes and not having that talk that you should have had. And you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. But as long as you continue that conversation, when it does happen, you'll at least have presented both sides of the coin, so to speak.
So I'll be that person at the table. If we're on the sell side, if the home is in the right location, we priced it right, it's got the right features, in the right condition, it will sell, and it will sell quickly. It's just economics 101. There's just way too many buyers and not enough product. If you are not in the right location, if you're overpriced, your features aren't there, and your conditions aren't there, it's going to sit. It's that simple. So it's a matter of trying to get those 4 pieces of the puzzle put together. And the other 2 is timing, right? Is this the right time for everybody, to your point of, hey, I got to move, I got grandkids coming, yada, yada, yada. And then, I'll say this, and I might get kicked under the table, because everybody who's watching and listening, everybody who's at this table, it matters who's on the other side more than ever right now.
It does.
Having a professional on the other side help navigate that is even more important today. So that's my 30 seconds.
Did you kick him?
I couldn't if I wanted to, and no, I wouldn't have anyway. But there's a thing I can't.
Partition there?
I know, yeah.
I would have thought you would have kicked him.
I know, but I wouldn't have for that
If you don't think
well.
I had my legs leaning that way when I said that.
So I really couldn't have, even if I'd wanted to, but I didn't even have the urge. So there's
Well,
that.
it's the truth. It
Patricia
matters.
Yerby is watching, and we'll close on this. She says home sale contingencies are doable in this market depending on the circumstances. In the last 4 months, I had 2 homes to sell for relocation clients that closed. Worked out well all the way around. The example, the seller was waiting for builder to complete their new home. Buyer, job, relocation, rented a VRBO, 60 days. Both sides set the stage for flexibility.
That's
great.
wonderful.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Patricia's
Debbie
great.
Dedamore, giving you some
Debbie.
props right now. You are a popular guy. Nelson County's finest. Gavin
Well, thank
Sherwood.
you.
So can I give a shout out real quick to Debbie? I know we're running on
Please,
time.
Yeah.
Please.
Debbie is an awesome human being. Without even knowing about it, she knitted a blanket for my new granddaughter and shipped it to Seattle. And we've got this phone call from our daughter, said, "Who's Debbie? This is a wonderful person." She actually made a blanket for our granddaughter without us even having a conversation with her, just following on what we're doing on Facebook, and shipped it out. Somehow or another,
That's
shipped
so
it out
cool.
that way.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
She's
Yeah.
an awesome
Way to go,
human being.
Debbie.
Way to go,
Yeah.
Debbie. You guys did a hell of a job. Seriously. Easy
Thank you.
show.
Yeah.
A host stream right here, guys. Nikki
Gavin's
Chambless.
awesome. Chambless.
Chambless. She's fantastic. She's dressed for Valentine's Day month. Looks
Yeah.
fantastic. See Cake Fight if you have an opportunity. She does a hell of a job with that band. Keith Smith puts the panel together. Gavin Sherwood is just great, dude.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
Knows
Thank you.
Nelson County inside and out. And you see what we're trying to do with the show, guys. We're trying to take a topic that's fairly complicated and make it approachable and understandable, right?
It's wonderful.
It's the game plan.
Work a little fun and bust on
Yeah.
Keith's chops in the middle,
I mean,
and everything is
it
good.
wouldn't be a show
You've been,
if we
you've
didn't
been
do
well
that.
behaved today. I just don't know
I
what's
tried
going
really
on.
hard. You know, when you show up a little late, you have to behave better.
Nikki, you're always great on the show.
I can officially tell you do not have to behave if you show up late.
Nikki is always
Be
great
careful,
on the
that's
show.
dangerous.
The
Everybody
entire
have a
show
good
is
week.
archived at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. I Love CVille show is up in 50 minutes, guys. So
Nice.
long. Well done.
Yay. Gavin, you're
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
It was easy peasy.
So all I got to tell you. Goodbye. I'll be right back.